I've made a lot of elevators. I mean a lot of elevators. Today I thought I'd show you the common elevators I've done in the past couple years from 1 to 12. The 1 by 1's a little bit different than what you're used to doing. I'm adding chapter selection so you can jump onto the 2 by 2 and the 3 by 3. These are some of the big fan favorites. And we can move on to some of the bigger designs. You'll get to see the 4 by 4, the 5 by 5, all the way up to 12. See if you notice some changes that have to happen as I get bigger. Let's get started with the 1 by 1. I like cozy spaces. Today we're going to simulate something impossible, the 1 by 1 elevator. Because you need 2 pistons next to each other, a true 1 by 1 elevator isn't really possible. But as you can see, we're in one right now. You can pretend it is and you can hide it so that it's secret. And today I'm going to show you how to make one. It's actually pretty cool. Let's get started. As you can see here, there's no visible sign of the elevator, but I can make it visible if I put a button right here on this wall. And what will happen is it will bring the elevator, and when the elevator arrives, the wall will open up. And now we have a 1 by 1 elevator, and I can put a button here, and now we will go down. Neat, right? Very simple. So let's actually take a closer look at this one, and then we'll dissect it. So right here, we've got a number of parts to it. It's actually a little bit more complicated than you would think to do this, because you need to fire timings on each of these, and you need to detect the elevator when it arrives. And so it's going to be a number of pieces. Right in here, let's dissect it. Right here, you've got the elevator detector, and what's going to happen is it's going to pass a signal through the elevator when it arrives. So you'll notice this doesn't connect, but when the elevator connects, when we push the button, or when we do this, the elevator is going to connect the circuit, and so the circuit will cause the door to open like that. We've got a pulse extender, and the pulse extender is going to cause it so that when it goes down, it's going to eventually shut the door so that the door is not left open. And the door will be closed as soon as this wears out, because what's going to happen is this is going to come on and it's going to send a single pulse over here to push these blocks on these pistons. And so what we've got, if we were to dissect it now, we've got some pistons that aren't sticky on this side. We've got pistons that are sticky on this side. We've got a tower of terracotta that actually forms the back of the elevator. And then we've got the elevator itself. And we're going to hold that elevator wall and push it back and forth with the floor. So this section of the elevator, terracotta, the elevator shaft, is going to actually be pushed back and forth by the elevator itself. So that's all of the pieces of it. Over here, we just want to have a 2-tick delay that's got a 1-tick pulse. And we'll do that with a pair of observers. And if we put it into this middle piston, like this, that will power all 3 of them. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. The difference is we're just going to pass power into an observer for 1 tick, and this one for 1 tick, and then this one for 2 ticks. That way it pushes and pulls because it needs to have a 2-tick long pulse. All right, does that make sense? So there's a number of things. I'll let you take a closer look like this. But that's about all there is to it. You just need to make sure that you don't touch it except for on purpose right here where you're passing the signal through. All right, let's get started on building one. So this is what you're going to need to build it. So what you want to do is you want to start a few blocks off the ground like this. And what we will do is we're going to build a piston elevator, but instead we are going to face it down like so, just to make it smaller. And what we're going to do is we're going to point it up like this and put these on top, and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to look upward with this piston, or observer. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go mount 2 blocks, and you can put in your floor of your elevator right here. And you're going to use the terracotta of your choice for the wall of your elevator, and you're going to hold on to it like that. And that's all there is to the elevator. So let's move it up. That's all there is to it. When you decide the height you want it at, have a obsidian block where you want it to stop. So this would be our platform. This is going to be where it would stop. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have a door that opens and closes like this. And so it's going to look a little something like that. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 on this side and 1 on this side like so. We're going to put some sticky pistons right here. 1, 2, 3. We're going to put, this is what we're going to need for the top overall. If I switch to it, look at my hotbar now. This is what we're going to be using. We're going to put pistons right here. And so now these are going to push and push to open and to close it. And so if you wanted to put more up here, you can make a hidden roof, but that's basically all there is to it. So now let's go ahead and start building the redstone for it. So what you want to do is you want to power redstone through this top terracotta box. What we're going to do is we're going to put this here, we're going to put this here, we're going to fire a repeater through it so that it comes out the other side like this. And what we want to do is lead that down so we don't interfere with the pistons. And we are going to make a delay like this. And this will take a while to shut off. And that way we'll be able to have it hold on a little bit before it closes again. And so now let's wire this up. So to push these, when it comes through, what we're going to do is when it first has a signal, we're going to send a repeater forward. And we're going to watch that repeater with an observer, and we're going to watch the repeater with an observer this way, and then watch that observer. And so this is going to be 1 tick and 2 ticks. And so it will fire for 2 ticks so that it doesn't push the blocks forward and leave them. And so now all you have to do is lead it in like so. In order to do that, you need to block that off. And so that is going to cause these to fire. See? So now let's do the other side that closes it when we're done. And so we're going to lead in to the top block like this. And that will cause, because it powers here and they're kind of a block above, this is going to power all 3 of them. And we are going to bring in an observer like this. And that observer is going to be watching, that observer is going to be watching one that's facing this way. And what we want to do is we want to invert the signal that comes off through here when it shuts off. So what we're going to do is we're going to invert the signal like this. We're going to lead it into a block. We're going to have a torch on that block. That torch is going to power another torch, and then they're going to both try and power a block. And that's all there is to it. And so now that will close it, and that will open it. Make sure you put a redstone dust right here, though. I waited to do it so that we didn't trigger it. So now that's all there is. And so what that will do is that will open it when we get there, and it will close it when we leave. You ready to test it? Before we strap a button on, let's go ahead and test it like so, as if we were going to put a button on by doing this. And so now, if we had a button, let's go get a button. By signaling that, it's going to go, and then when it leaves, it's going to close. Why didn't it close? Oh, I always forget the dust there. Make sure you have dust all the way to this torch. So now, when we trigger this with a piston, say, it's going to come up. And see, that opens it if it was closed. And see, now it will close when we leave. Like that. And so you can put in your walls here if you like, so that you can't see your pistons. So there you go. That's all you have to do. And so now, let's say we had a recall button. We made a button right here that runs down and pushes this. And see, it's closed. Oh no, we're going to suffocate. Nope. And so now that's a working elevator. Go ahead and leave the video now if you're not interested, but what I want to show you right now is what it would look like once we have the shaft in, because that's the whole point of making a 1x1 piston elevator, is having it be 1x1. So you want it to be like this. And it'll come down. And you would have your platform right here. And make sure, because there's a slime block here, that you would have your terracotta here. And so if you had your roof like this, and you could wrap, you can't put any immediate here, but you could wrap it all the way around like this if you wanted. I'm not going to do it because it would take a bit, but you could wrap it like this so that it's dark and so that you can't see up. But fundamentally, that's a working system. Let me go ahead and show you, since you're still here, how we're going to do this button. We're going to put a button like so. Pretty easy, right? And so we're going to have a button like this. Doop, 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 doop. And so what we'll do is we'll put a button here. And now we've got a way to go up. And see, we won't take any damage or anything. It's going to open just in time for us. And then we could make a recall button that's secret, like so if we wanted. I'm not going to wire up this button. You would just need to bring this button all the way around to here. But let's say we wanted to do a recall button, and we could put it right here. And so our regular button would be right here. You would just need to lead redstone it down. All right, we'll go ahead and do it. Do-do-do. Do-do. Do-do-do-do. There. Happy? I'm happy. We're in the territory of why not. So that's going down. And we want to have our recall button power right here. So what we will do is we would power it over and power a piston with some slime blocks. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And we'll give it another. We'll give it another, and we would put a block down. This is just how you do. This is just how you do a block tower. And so what we could do is we could do it so that it comes all the way down. And we don't actually need much more. I'm going to do this. And then we could have our redstone like this. Keep swapping out the wrong block. There we go. And all you'd have to do is power this piston, and then we'd be done. So let's say we want to come from this way. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We're running out, so put a compare or a repeater in here so that our signal's strong enough. And that's all you have to do. And so that would cause it to recall. And so you could have a secret recall button that you came in and put on if you knew where it was. You can see it's coming. Whoop. There's our secret elevator. So there you go. And I like speed runs. Today is going to be a rewind if you've watched any of my other videos. We're going to do an easy classic. We'll probably do fancier versions of the 2x2 in the near future. So if you've never actually put an elevator in your base, I highly recommend you start with this one. I think this is going to be an easy one, and I think it's going to be pretty fun to do. You'll be able to learn a lot about elevators by doing one, and it doesn't take much to build. Let's get started! So over here, you will see that we have a dissection. It has a top, and it has the piston elevator. So all you've got to do is put one down like this, and then on top of it, you do your usual. Add your slime blocks on top. But this time you put these on top and then whatever block you want to use for your decor. And you're done. And so now to go up, you just build up like so. So we're going to have it stop right there. And that's it. That's all you've got to do to have an elevator. So to do the bottom, all you're really going to need to do is put a path of redstone around it. So we can do it like this. And what you'll do is you'll just have a button somewhere you can push. Let's say we have a button right here. And so we'll put one right there. And we'll put some redstone. We'll put some redstone. you just lead a path down to it. So let's say we do it like that. Ta-da! That's all there is to the bottom. Now on the top, we're going to want to trigger this one. And so to trigger this one, what we're going to want to do, and I like to have this hidden by having a block here. Move this out of the way. What we'll do is we will put a block that we push in front of it. So it'll come up to right here. And so what we do is we'll have a block like so. Let me show it to you in a way that you can actually manage to see it. And we're going to come over here. Off to the side of it, we're going to have some redstone dust to power that. But we don't want this to power it for too long. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cut it short so that it just peeks in front of it. Because it's going to be moving down. It's going to be moving a lot. We don't want to have any confusion. Let's say you wanted to have a different color for your side. We could say, let's say we wanted to use this for our decor actually. And so what you would do is you would have a block that can stop it, just like we've done with the bigger elevators. And what we can do is we can put a, oh, you're going to want to put it one block away. And you're going to want to have it grab, like so. And you can actually put it higher up if you would like this. And so all we want to do is have a button that triggers that, pulls that away, and then pushes the signal on this one. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to have another piston and have this cut off the redstone signal. And so we can put a redstone signal like so. We want to power both of these blocks. We want to power this redstone. We want to power up here. So we can do it like this. So we've got this redstone. It's going to cause this to go off and pull this back. And then after 2 ticks, this will be able to fire and we will get a brief pulse on this one. And so that's all you're going to have to do. Let's take a little look at it. So this is going to, when we power this redstone dust, this is going to move. And while it is moving this block, this redstone dust is going to be lit. And it'll be just for 2 ticks, long enough to push this block out, trigger it, and then pull it back. And then it will not interfere with the slime block there. Ready? Put a button right here. And there you go. And now you've got yourself a hidden door. I like elevators. Today we're doing a basic 3x3 elevator. Elevators are becoming an essential part of survival builds. They really add a nice touch to polishing an existing one. Unfortunately, many people get spooked because they look complicated. But I'm telling you, they don't have to be. I'm here to make them easier for you. Let's get started. So first off, you need to know how to make a basic piston elevator. Piston elevator is really simple and only uses about 8 blocks. Have some obsidian handy. It'll help you keep things from going more places they shouldn't. But all you need is an observer and another observer on some pistons. Make the pistons so that the observers are facing the bottom of the pistons, like so. And goodbye. So let's talk about what's happening here. So when an observer is touched, it will move. It will send a fast signal that will cause a sticky piston to put a block forward and then not retract it. Every time it does that, it'll do that. But if there is no block, it'll pull instead. So watch these pistons. Every time this observer sees movement, this observer is going to cause those pistons to move. The way a basic piston elevator works is simple. You've got 2 observers and 2 pistons. And what happens is the pistons push and pull each other, like so. Every time you touch something in front of the observer, you're going to get some motion. Let's look closely at what's happening. So whenever you touch this one, it's going to want to go down based on the sequence it starts in. And when you touch this one, it's going to want to go up. So a good thing to remember is the one furthest away is from the direction you're going is how it's going to launch. You can think of them as pushing the whole thing forward. So when the top piston moves, it's going to, and this is going to matter later in a minute, it's going to push this piston upward, which is going to cause this slime block to be pushed, which is going to cause this slime block to be pushed, which is going to cause this piston to be pulled up with it, and it's going to cause this one to be pushed. And this one's going to send a signal to cause the other one to do it. That's gone. Here's a basic 3x3 piston elevator in action. So if we chain them so that we've got an additional, we're limited to 12 blocks we can push. We've only got 4 like we had over here. If we have another observer, we can send a redstone signal to this block and cause both of these pistons to activate. So what happens if I put a block here? It didn't work. Why didn't it work? It didn't work because this piston needs to push these 4, and this one, and this one, and this one, and all of these. And so it's not going to work because this is too many blocks for it to push. So what we do is we do it in phases. So what we will have is this one trigger it first. And now it's a block ahead, which means that we only have to push these. So now, when we touch this one, congratulations, you've got a simple piston elevator. So the difference here is that all you need to do is prime the top one before you move more blocks. And you can move as many blocks as you want. Later I'm going to do a video on how to move a 12 by 12 pretty simply using the same mechanic. Over here I've shown you how it looks when you break it up into little pieces. So you have a basic piston elevator, and what you do is you add on top another layer, another piston phase that has a slime block to hold everything, and everything is just another observer and 2 pistons. And then on top of those pistons you put enough slime and honey blocks that they can push blocks without going over the 12 limit. So I have 6 slime blocks here to hold those 5. So if I put 5 blocks on top of that, that's going to be 11, and it won't be too many. If I were to add another one, it wouldn't work, because then you would have another slime block, and then you would have 13, which is too many. And the leftovers have been done with these 5 honey blocks. And then finally, you have your layer on top of whatever blocks you want to use. Here's what you're going to need to build it, down below. So let's build one, see how fast I can do it. So all you need is some observers. Like that. There you go. Now we've got our bottom layer. Now let's add an observer facing the right way. Some sticky pistons. We're going to add our layer of slime blocks. That should do it. Now we can use whatever you want. And before, you need to stop both of these in order for it to not have issues. So if you want to set some obsidian up here, that can help you. And that's it. Prime, and go. And go back down. Now that's the easy part. The hard part in redstone is often making it look pretty. So next we're going to talk about making it pretty and buttons to activate it. The bottom is the easy part, so let's start with that. On the bottom, you're going to need to touch the top observer to prime it, and then you're going to need to kick it off. And so what you want to do is basically just run your button down to the top one, and then put a small delay on it. Only has to be 2 or 3 ticks, and then touch the bottom one. And that should be it. So let's build that. So let's go ahead and add a bottom trigger. So in order to add a bottom trigger, we need to have a bottom. So use glazed terracotta so the slime blocks don't touch that. And we can put a button anywhere we want. Let's say we wanted to put the button right here. We can run some redstone dust and run it down like so. And if you want to touch this twice, you can place this one first and then down. And so now it's like that, like we want it to. And there's our redstone dust. And now we need to trigger this one. So when we trigger this, it's going to send it off, which is fine. It'll just serve as a good test. So let's put a repeater down with a few ticks on it. And then we will connect that up to here like that. And we should be happy. Ready? Oh, we're not, because we didn't prime it. That's funny. So now we can actually test it for real. So let's sit right here. It works. Now all that's left is for us to do a top trigger. In the meantime, we can push it down out of the way if we would like. Like this. All right, time for the last piece. The top piece, or the clasp trigger as I like to call it, grabs it so that it stops so that you don't have to put anything on top. So if I push this button, it's going to cause these to pull out so there's no longer too many blocks, and then it will be able to go down. And we just have to do that right before or at the same time as we touch the down observer. So if we set off our completed example right here, this is just like the other one we made. We're going to cause this to be too many blocks. And you don't actually have to have it with pistons all the way around. All you need is so that each one adds up to at least 12, because this layer is going to add a block on each of them so that it will actually be more than 12. So you don't run the risk of it pushing through. So all you have to do is have a minimum number of sticky pistons. In this case, for a 3x3, I'm going to do 2 on each side. That's going to touch one of the slimes and 3 of the honeys to make sure we have enough. And when I push the button, it's going to pull that back, and it's going to launch it at the same time if you're watching down below. You see that piston. All right, so let's build the clasp trigger. All right, so let's start by giving it a nice floor around it like we would do in an actual build. And you can go as far as you want with this. I'm not going to go all the way around, but you get the idea. So all we've got to do is set up some blocks to be pushed and pulled by pistons, and then connect it to the trigger. So we're going to put some like this, and like this. And if you want to light them both, a very compact way to do it is to actually run redstone dust up here, like that. And that will light up both of them. Oh, haha. So now, there you have it. Those will push and pull. So now, if we wire up a button, or a lever, we're going to see that they go in and out. So let's wire this up to the actual machine to say hello to the observer. So I'm going to run redstone down from there. That way we know it's at the same time or after. So dust, dust. I don't want to do it just yet. All right, that should do it. You think it's going to work? Let's find out. So if we were to run, let's say our button is, let's put our button closer. Let's say we wanted to run it, we'll go ahead and put the button right here, just for simplicity's sake. You can play with it and put it wherever you want. So this should retract these, and then fire this piston right after it's retracted them. And there it goes. Now you've got a working piston elevator that you can use in your survival builds. I use them all the time. They're fun. They're very simple. Up and down. Finally, before we go, I figured I would show you what I did for my intro. So this is a minor adjustment just to make it prettier. So if you put blocks around it that are terracotta, it's not going to touch them. So any terracotta blocks will be fine. And you can see right here, these are my blocks that push and pull. I'm actually hiding the observer touch to go down right here, so you can't tell. There's a number of ways you can do that. If you want to use glowstone or streamlights, anything that moves the block in front of an observer will cause it to function. I like upgrades. Basic elevators are nice, but sometimes you need something a bit bigger. Sometimes you want to go bigger. Sometimes 3x3 is a little odd. Well, today we're going to do a 4x4. It's not too much more complicated. The same principles apply. And with this, you should be able to move more things at a time. Maybe you need to move more people at a time. Whatever your case, I'm your guy. This is going to be a summary of not only how to build it, but I'll show you some pitfalls and things to avoid so that it's easier when you're trying it on survival mode so that you can get it right the first time. Let's get started. 60-second elevator review. Ready? Go. So an elevator is comprised of 8 blocks. 4 slime blocks, 2 sticky pistons, and 2 observers. I have these as a substitute. Whenever something happens in front of an observer, it will cause it to push and cause the other one to pull, going in a repeated loop. The second principle to know is that whenever an observer is moved, it will fire pistons, allowing you to overcome the 12 block limit. You're limited by 8 on the first layer because the initial construction requires you to push a slime block, a second slime block, and then this sticky piston and this observer. Let's build one super fast. The pistons need to face the opposite way as from the observers. Done. So this is what a sticky piston elevator looks like. Let's dissect it. As you can see, it does in fact work. All you need is to take a basic piston elevator, make room for a piston on top, put some pistons on the side so they don't touch it, and then put a piston on the back so that we reuse this observer. It'll look like this when it's finished. And then all you have to do is put slime blocks on top, like so, as a slime layer, and a little bit of padding to make it easier to stop at the top. That's optional, but I'll show you how to do it later. And your slime will look like this once you've got enough so that you'll have 12 of each. So this is 8 of each, and then once you put the decor blocks on, you'll be done. Let's show you how to build it now. So this is all you're going to need is 22 slime blocks, 16 honey blocks, 4 observers, and 6 pistons. Let's get started by putting an observer right here and an observer right here. Make these face the opposite direction. And now, the easiest way to remember this is you want to make an arc of 3, like that. And you're going to put one here, so that you can put pistons right here, and then there you go. You're done. Don't believe me? Now the trick is you're going to need to prime all 3 of these at the bottom, like we did on the 3x3. But you're going to have to touch them at the same time. So let's add one of these. So what we're going to do is we're going to, in front of this observer, we are going to place a regular piston, like so, and we will just say hello to it and it will go. And then you're going to want to have some right here. And we will talk to those in the same manner. And what we want to do is we want to have a tick delay so that we do these first. Let's get some redstone dust. And we will simply lead this down. And we'll put a repeater. And that should be it. Now with a button, that should work. And that should launch it correctly, even with the blocks on top of it. Let's go find out. We're going to place our sticky pistons like so. Our slime blocks. You'd think I would know the difference. And to make it easier, we're going to make it so that there are 8 of these, so that there will only be 4 blocks on top for each one. So there's 6 of these, we need 2 here, and there's 6 of these, we need 2 here. Let's put them right here. But we need 3 on this one, because it doesn't have as many, because it's higher up. And that should be all we need to do. So now, this should properly prime these upward, and then it will go. And it works. So now that we've covered how to build our elevator, let's cover how to stop it at the top and turn it back around. So let's say we had a top platform like this. If you did what I did and padded them so that there's 12 of each, it'll be very easy. All we have to do is put these blocks here in order to stop it from moving. And so what we'll do is we'll add some sticky pistons in order to push and pull those so that we can choose when we launch it. Actually, let's put it down here. So I'm going to put redstone torches here to invert them so that when we push a button, it will pull them back. We're going to put repeaters like this. However, there's one thing you need to know, which is that if we do not change anything, what's going to happen is this one is going to be pulled away, and because we are reusing this observer with this piston, we're going to push this row upward, and it's going to break the machine. I'll show you how it breaks the machine in a second. In order to do that, we want to hold this one a little bit longer before we start moving. And so what we're going to do is we're going to set up our trigger to move like we did before, where after 3 ticks it will go. But we are going to wait another 2 ticks, so 5 ticks total, on this one right here. And you can do these anywhere you like. The concern is that this one right here, this piston right here is connected to this one, which is our down. And so if you're going to use one on the down, like say if we were going to have one here, you need to make sure that you hold on to them a little bit longer for 5 ticks. And so we're going to set this one for 3 ticks, 2, 3. And that should work. Now let's rig up a button and test it. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, and less than 15, so it should reach. You think it'll work? Let's find out. It works. So now let's show you what happens if it were to fail. Which, by the way, if you want a really nice border, you don't have to use obsidian if you're worried about slime blocks touching things. Glazed terracotta will also not be pulled by slime blocks, and so you can have a much better edge on your bottom floor like so. So let's go upward. And I will show you what happens if you run into problems with your timings. If we were to remove this one and we were to try to do it only on one tick, what do you think would happen? What's going to happen is it's going to pull these back, it's going to fire it to go, and this one's going to push that one up, which means... Oh no! We lost part of our elevator. And the only way to fix this is to put it back. And that can be a real headache in survival mode. And so be careful with your timings on your redstone. So what you would have to do is put it back the way it was, which is like this. Should be 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now this one will function correctly. Let's make it pretty. This would be fun to play with somebody, to make your elevator look small and make it bigger than it actually is. And see, now it functions correctly now that we actually have 5 ticks over there. I like pushing boundaries. Today we're doing one I'm really proud of. A 5x5 piston elevator is almost impossible without adding more layers. You're trying to move and fire 5 pistons at a time. You only got 8 blocks to do that, and the pistons take up 5 of it, so that makes it really hard to do. I was going to give up on this one for a few days, but I determined it was mathematically possible, and so I was going to do the video later. But what ended up happening is I ended up figuring it out before I fell asleep one night, and the solution's kind of elegant, so let's get started. I think you're going to like this one. Let's look at a 5x5. This is what it looks like. It's pretty simple. Let's dissect it. So you have your slime block elevator, and you add some pistons on the right, like so. You've got an observer facing down. We add some pistons on the left that will use the already existing observer, and then you just have your slime and honey blocks. It's really that simple. So let's actually build one. So we'll start by placing the elevator and then building the rest of it around it. It's pretty simple. Put one here, put one here, and then all we've got to add is one here and one here, and then we're going to come out and back. We need to have a observer pasting down, and we'll place 3 around it. That's all you really have to do. Let's build something up here to stop it, so when we put it up here, we will be able to work on the top. The bottom side, we're going to need to touch both of these in order to prime it. And so what we need to do is we need to put pistons like so. This is going to be to kick it off to fire it upward. And so we're going to put one right here. And we will connect those up like so. It helps if you put your redstone dust down before you put your observers down, like I'm doing, because it prevents the observers from accidentally firing when you don't want them to. So we'll put one here. We'll put one. We need to put a repeater on this one, like that, and that will be a delay so that we can wait for it to prime the other pistons. Otherwise, if they fire at the same time, you're going to get some weird behavior. And that should be all there is to it. Let's go ahead and put the top on. And you will notice that as soon as I am done with this, I'm going to put another row on. And the reason is because we want to have each of them be 12, so that once we put the 5 blocks on top of each row, we want each of these to be 7. 5 and 7 is 12, so that it's easy to stop at the top, where just one touch will cause it to stop. So I'll put one here, one here, one here, one here, one here. And that'll do it. Think it works? Let's kick it off. I need a button. It works. Now all we should have to do is make sure we have a clasp that lets go of it, and we will begin doing the top. I'll put it back up, and then we will get started. So first things first, let's take off the stopper, and let's go ahead and put a top on. This is going to be your decor layer. It can be any blocks you want, of course. And we will frame it with something like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some blocks right here that will cause it to have too many and will cause it to stop, so it actually stops and doesn't keep going through it. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some pistons on these to push and pull them when we hit the launch button, like this. 2, 3, 4, 5. And we need to power those with pistons. And if you will recall from the 4x4 video, if you watched it, I'll put a link in the thumbnail. So what we'll do is we will have to, for any piston that's being pushed by the original observer, which in this case is going to be 2 of them, we need to have an extra tick delay, like that. Alright, so now let's wire it up and get it working. We're going to put a piston here to say hello to it, and we are going to put an observer to trigger that piston, like so. Now all we should have to do is run this over to here. You think that's it? Gotta work. We need to have 3 ticks. So what's going to happen is we're going to trigger these 3, and we're going to hold on to these 2 a little bit longer, and so that'll be 1 tick. And on 3 ticks, we're going to say go. And then on 5 ticks for these 2, we're going to let go of them. So you've got 1 on each of these, you've got 3 here, and then you've got an additional 4 on these 2. So now, let's wire up redstone dust. And test it. Ready? I recommend using a button that you're going to use up here when you're finished. We're going to move it in a second. When you're testing, don't use a lever to test something that you're going to eventually use with a button, because the nature of the ticks of it going on and off might cause it to have weird quirkiness. I like using stone buttons. It works. But does it catch it when we get to the bottom? I mean top. Does it catch it when we get to the top? It does. So now you've got a working one. And so if you want to tidy it up and make it a little bit prettier, what you can do is you can put a button. Let's say we wanted to put the button right here. And we can run some redstone down like this. Oop, 2, 3. And that should be all you have to do. Make sure it can reach 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. You're starting to be as far as that redstone dust can go, but it should still work. And so now, let's go down. And remember, you can surround things with terracotta. You don't have to use obsidian to not worry about slime dragging it. And so let's pick out a pretty terracotta. Glazed terracotta is not dragged. So if we were to use pink, we can go 2, 3, 4, 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And if you're OCD and want to have the corners rotate, there you go. And so now you've got a platform. Let's move that button just to show how to do it. So we want to connect this button to anywhere on here. So let's say we had a button right here. Probably should not put my redstone dust away because we are about to use it. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Doesn't matter what color. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yep, less than 15, so it should work. So now all we have to do is we have a button. I like simplicity. Bigger elevators are a little bit more complicated. Today, we're going to do our very first 3-phase elevator. The ones we've been doing are 2-phase elevators. This one's going to be a little bit more complicated, but I think I've made it simple for you. All you need for 4 and 5 are that many pistons. But to do a 6x6, you need 8 of them. I spent some time working on it to make it a little bit simpler, and I hope you like the symmetry. Let's get started. But first, 30-second elevator review. 2 observers, 2 sticky pistons, 4 slime. Observer causes push, observer causes pull. Observer causes push, observer causes pull. Motion causes them to fire too. Now we're going to build one. Done. So this is what a 6x6 looks like. Let's take a closer look. The 6x6 may look complicated, but it's broken up into 3 tiers. You have the bottom tier, which is the elevator. You have a second tier, which is a crown on top of that. And then you have the third tier, which is a pair of wings. It'll look like this when you take it apart. Piece by piece. Basic piston elevator, a middle phase, and that allows us to put these 8 pistons on top. And finally, some slime. Now there's a trick to these slime that I've made simple for you. You're going to do this 4 different times, and you're going to flip them on the back so that they alternate. We have 7 of these in a little claw shape, and that'll push 5 blocks, which is 12 total. And then you have these 8. It's a little flag with 1 extra block, and these 8 will push 4, which is also 12. That way they'll be very easy to stop. And if you put the flags on the inside like this, you're going to see that it will be able to push all 4 of these on either side so that you can touch all 4 adjacent and be able to grab all 8 of them and stop it at the top. Now let's look at the top and bottom and launching it. So because we've got 3 tiers, this is going to have another layer to it. It looks more complicated, but it's not that bad. So all you need to do is to be able to touch all of these 4 observers to set off the first layer. And then, after 3 ticks, you're going to touch the bottom ones, which would normally be all we did. If you remember, we did 2 or 3 on the smaller elevators. And then after those 3 ticks, and then 7 ticks later is when you launch it. From my experimentation, that's the fastest you can launch it. Now to stop it at the top, we're going to do a simpler version because we don't have to worry about the original one. If you might remember, on ones that use the base elevator, we have to actually have a delay so that we hold on to it a little bit longer. We don't have to do that on this. So we just need to grab all 4 on this side and all 4 on this side, and that will do it. And so it will let go and then launch. And if it helps you, this is going to be 5 blocks down from underneath the extended piston here. All right, let's get to building one. So this is what you're going to need. Obsidian is optional as always, but it helps to have. We're going to start off with an elevator. Just a basic one like that. put in our sticky pistons, and we will put what I call a crown on it, which is just this section. And then we will put the two little wings on for the third stage, which will look something like this. We will put a observer right here, like that, like that, like that, like that. And then we are going to put 8 pistons down. And that should be it. Now, of course, you've got more blocks than you can launch, right? So what do? So in order to prime it and test it, and you can't do this once you put the top layer on, the decor layer, because it will mess up the slime blocks. But before that, you can actually test it by priming layer 3 like this. Put on a block that will break off if it moves, like a lever or a torch. I like a button. And you don't actually have to do that before we have the slime, but I'm just showing you how to do it. And then you prime layer 2, and that will actually kick off layer 3 again to move this one block further. I'll show you that with slime blocks in a second. And then you should be able to kick it off like so. And it works. Now, let's pull this back down. When it's finished, you should want it to come across like that. I think I'm actually going to put it right here. You want it to be down the middle of the 6x6. And that'll keep it from going anywhere. So let's move it back down, and what we're going to do is we're going to start putting our slime blocks on. So slime block will go like this. And you want to put your claws on the outside. And the reason for that is because it will cause these inner 4 blocks to be like this. Because they're like that, you'll be able to grab them all easily with the pistons. So let's put on our, I call it a flag. And that's all you have to do. You do 4 of those and we're done. So let's do another one of these. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's all you have to do. So now let's test it. And now you'll see why the stage 3 is important. So we're going to prime the layer 3 up here, like so. And then we're going to need to do it again after this layer, but we won't need to do it again because when you move it, it will do it by itself. That's the beauty of this, is you can have as many tiers on your piston elevator as you need to, because they will prep each one, and you only have to fire the redstone once for each layer. Now it will move. The challenge is that you're going to have a problem if you need to test it with the top on. And the reason you're going to have a problem is because if you have blocks here and one layer pushes up, it's going to stick and break. So when I prime this layer, it's going to grab onto these, and then you're going to have problems. They have to all go in sync in order for it to work. So now let's do the bottom launcher. It might seem daunting from what I showed you, but it's actually pretty simple. What we need to do is we need to place some pistons so that they touch these, and then we need to do the second layer, and then the third layer is the launch. And so we're going to put a piston like this. We're going to put an observer like this, but I'm actually not going to put it there yet. I'm actually going to put it like this. This way, we don't have to worry about having problems. So we're going to put a piston here, an observer here, and some redstone dust right here. And you can actually run your redstone dust really close. For reasons I'm about to show you, we don't care about that observer. That's the down observer that we need up there. We don't need it right now, so it doesn't matter to us. And we also need to signal this one. Be sure not to leave anything dangling. That might cause issues down the road. I'll go ahead and put these down. It's just easier. All right, and now we wire it up. But there's a gotcha here, which is that we are going to actually get rid of these two pieces. We're going to connect this one right here and this one right here to a piston, like I'm about to show you. Oops, this way. And this way. No, this way. There we go. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to lower this redstone by 1. The reason we're going to do that is it's easiest to put a piston on these two down here from the sides. Now, of course, you can do your own design, but I assume if you're following along, that's what I'm going to do. And now we are going to feed some redstone down into this. And these need to be set to 3 ticks, like so. I'll go ahead and put this one on for you. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. You ready? So we have this one facing sideways. We're going to put this observer right here, and we're going to have a 3-tick repeater like this. And the redstone will be able to feed into those repeaters. All right, your first layer is done. Don't believe me? Let's test it. Isn't that neat? My first and second layers are done. So now it's ready to launch. And in order to launch, you need to have, oh boy, for safety's sake, we're going to destroy this. That way we don't have problems. So now, we didn't need to because it just would have failed. Okay, so now we have 7 ticks. And now it should launch upward if we power this with redstone. That's enough to go. So in order to stop it, you want to make sure you've got these 8 covered. Bare minimum. It looks like I do. So it should stop when we get to the top. You just have to make sure each one of the 8 pieces is touched. And that's the easiest way to do it. You think it's going to work? Let's find out. And there you have it, folks. All right, so let's put that last top piece on and we'll be done with our demonstration. It's pretty easy to do this. You just need to have sticky pistons. Pull each of these 8, just like we did on the other elevators. And you might recall that what we do now is we get a redstone torch for each one, and we put on some repeaters to feed into it, each one of them. Let's do the same thing on the other side. And there you go. So now, what we need to do is we need to have a piston tell us it's time to go once we pull those out of the way, like that. So let's put a observer facing this way, and I assume we're going to want to have about 3 ticks on that one. And let's run this as close as we can. Now on this one, because our elevator is starting to get a little bit bigger, you're going to be running out of redstone signal. So you actually need to be careful right here in the middle. I ran into a bug when I was designing it because if you were to count with me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, which means if we don't actually do one of these two blocks, if we don't power this one or this one, we're not going to be able to power both sides. There's two ways you can address that. One is to put a repeater right here in the middle, or if you're new to redstone and worried about making a mistake, you can just be safe and you can go ahead and use two of them. Is it pricier? Can be, but you know it's going to be able to reach without having to check, especially if you're doing some of this underground or somewhere hidden. And so now we're just going to connect this up. And if we did it correctly, we should be able to push this button and it should go, and we should be done. And we'll go ahead and clean up the top. You ready? It works. So now let's ensure that we actually did it and that we counted everything correctly by putting in our cover. This should not matter in the slightest. It's just decorative. If we did things correctly. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Let's find out if we actually did do this correctly. Now, obviously, we need to be over the limit on 12, and we won't be, so we do actually have to put the top on this. If you don't do that, then our count's going to be off, and it is going to keep going. It would be awkward as it sails off into the sunset. I've got it locked at noon, so into the literal sun. So that's it. Now, does it work? If we calculate everything correctly, it should. And it stops, just like we expected. Now the final test. And it works too. So now you've got a working 6x6 elevator if you followed along with everything. I like the number 7. If you do too, you've come to the right place. Today we're doing a 7x7 piston elevator. Moving and stopping pistons can take a little bit of trickiness. My challenge is to make it easy for you. Your challenge is to like, subscribe, and comment. So, pause Snow White, grab your 7-layer dip, and let's build this moving continent. It'd be a deadly sin not to. You'll need a rainbow of parts, but it won't take a week. Let's get started on a wonder of the redstone world. So this is a 7x7 piston elevator. Let's take a closer look. So I've designed this one to be very similar to the 6x6. We have our base elevator, we have a middle layer, and then we have a top layer, this time with as many pistons as we can fit on it. You only need about 10 pistons mathematically to do this, but it's a little bit easier if you go ahead and use 12 of them. Let's go ahead and dissect it and take it apart so we can look at it a little bit more closely and actually understand it. So we have our piston elevator. We have a crown that we put on the back of it this time. You'll notice that instead of, we'll go up here and look. Instead of being on the top, now it's on the back. So we've rolled this behind the back of it, like this. And then we have our third layer, which is a pair of wings, just like the 6x6. Our wings now look like this. We have a lot more pistons on them. So the tricky part is going to be the slime layer, and I'm going to give you a couple things to help you with the slime layer. First, I'm going to show you how it's comprised, and then I'm going to give you a view of all of it put together. If you need to pause the video at that point, you can do that. So we have a section I can call the cube here. In order to have 12 blocks total in each section, we need to pad them, and the easiest way to do that is to, in this section, have 3 long strips that have the same underneath. I've put signs on the padding blocks that don't connect to the pistons. So for example, this one fits on that piston, and so we're adding these 4 honey blocks in here on this one. I call this the cube. It's these 3 together. So these are the 4s. These are touching 4 blocks, so they need to have 8 blocks total. There's not really anywhere good to fit extra blocks on this one, so we put these 2 here. We can add 2 on the front of this one to complete it so that it's 8. And then this one we can add 1 on the side. These 3 I call the slide overs. So these are going to start on the piston and immediately go sideways in order to reach underneath. That's true for this one, and this one. Now, the final ones are what I call the 5s. The 5s don't need anything because they need to be 7 in order to move 5 blocks on top. And they are 7 because they have 2 leading up to them. And so these 5s don't need any padding. So let's actually look at this all put together so it becomes a little bit easier for you to understand. If you want to pause the video right now, this is what it's going to look like from the top. We're going to lead 2 blocks up from the pistons, and we're going to do this. I'll move my hand out of the way. All right. So, how do we build it? Well, after we build it, we're going to need to do a 3-phase trigger just like the 6x6, and I've made this one so it's not any more complicated. And this one will be fairly simple as well. Let's go ahead and get started on building it and showing you how. So the first thing I want to do is promise you that I'm not cheating. I don't have anything up on the other screen, and I'm not using the magic of editing. This is all going to be done in one cut, all from memory, and it'll be simple enough that you should be able to follow along. Once you know some of these parts, it'll become pretty straightforward to understand how it's put together, and you'll be able to do this pretty easily. So let's actually get started. Whoop. So we're going to build our elevator. We're going to put a crown on the back of it like this. What we're going to do, actually, is put these on here and the pistons on this. And then we're going to add the wings on it. And these wings are very small because they carry so many pistons. I believe this adds up to 12 blocks. Yep, it's got 6 on each and then 6 of the non-piston blocks. Go, go, go. Go, go, go. Go, 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 go. All right, and that will work. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put on the slime layer right now. So what we want to do is, because we're going to be touching these and we don't want to be pushed past the front of it, we're going to need to do this particular one. The color actually matters. And we're going to do this. And let's build that cube, the cube, as I like to call it. Straightforward, right? All right, now it's where we get into the 4s. So we're going to build up like this and put a 4 like this. Build up and put a 4 like this. We're going to go over and build a 4 like that. Now, if you recall, this has got 6 blocks, 7, 8. This one's got 6 blocks, 7, 8. This one's got 7 blocks because we had to go over, so 8. And now we're going to go over on this one as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that'll add up to 12. And then on this one as well. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You see how that works? Now we get to the 5s. And the 5s are the easiest part because we don't have to add any padding. That's 7. That's 7. That's 7. That's 7. So we should be good to go. So let's build up to a stopping point and we will test this out. You're going to want to cover these blocks all the way across here. I'm going to go up. All right. I'll make sure we stop all all 12 sections at the same time. That should do it. So let's prime it in the way that you do. And remember that you can't do this once you put some blocks on top because it'll grab and it'll make a mess. And I'll show you some of the problems you can run into later on once we've built it. So prime 1, 2, 3, 4 on the wings. You need to prime the middle layer, and that will push up, and then the next layer will be pushed up. So it'll move them up too, like that, and then it should go. Now, isn't that magical? I would say we're done here, but obviously we've got to build the top and bottom and have it grab a clasp on the top, which will be straightforward. It's going to be 6 on each side, and then we'll do the bottom trigger. And we're going to add a new component at the bottom trigger that's going to make your life easier, and it's one you can use in the other ones. It's going to be a pulse extender to not have to worry about when your button comes on, turns off again. Firing again. We've been making these so that doesn't end up mattering. In this one, it is going to matter because we're going to have to squeeze the piston in between here, and we don't want to accidentally push this as it's moving up. So let's move this down, and let's get started on the bottom trigger so we can actually attach some blocks. So like the 6x6, we're going to need to trigger it in 3 layers. Let's start in the order that it actually fires by placing some right here. I'm having issues getting in there. There we go, like this. Make sure our pistons are facing the right way. So these, I put that on, okay. These are the top. There you go. We'll extend this out. We're going to put observers here. We don't want to accidentally trigger it. And so to prevent that, we're going to put the redstone dust down first. Sound good? And for reasons that you will see, I'm going to run this across, but I'm actually going to lower it by 1. This can be a little helpful. It's not essential, but you might actually know if you saw the 6x6 what we're going to do. I meant to get rid of these two. Okay, let's put some observers down now. I'm trying to get faster at this because these videos get a little bit longer as the elevators get bigger, and I don't want it to get too long, but I do want to get bigger. Oh dear. I've forgotten to extend this. Okay. There we go. So the reason why we need to do that is because we are going to have to squeeze in something to trigger these two. If you'll recall, on some of the other ones, we've had them facing downward. Now they're facing forward. We're going to reach out like this, and we're going to put an observer on this one, facing here. And then we're going to put some redstone dust right here. And if you recall, we're going to use the same method as the 6x6. We're going to do it 3x3. Or, sorry, we're going to do a 3 tick and then 7 tick, is what I meant to say. So that's 3 ticks. Some redstone dust. Repeater from this redstone, 3 ticks. Now, there's a problem that we're going to encounter with the timing on a button, because what's going to happen is we're going to push these a second time when the button lets go. We don't want to do that. So even though we're technically sort of kind of already done, we're going to add something special in order to actually fire this. Let's check and make sure. This is something always good to do with your redstone, is when you know what you're doing, check your ticks on your repeaters. I'm going to put a button right here for us to push as if we were done and had a edge around it. And we are going to, well, let's put an edge around it. Glazed terracotta. We'll use this one today. And then we'll put some blocks on top. So what we're going to do then is we're going to put a pulse extender on it. The pulse extender is a pretty simple idea. I want it to be full signal when it comes out. But when you put two repeaters together, or comparators together, they fade over time. And this causes a temporary loop, which will cause it to last longer. And that's all we need, is for the button to hold on a little bit longer until we've moved out of the way. My advice, in order to get the full effect, you need to have a repeater going into it. And that should be all you have to do. So what we're doing is we have a loop here, and it's going to make it bright. And then it will fade. And then once it fades all the way, it will turn off. Shall we test it? Let's do the hard thing, the scary thing, and let's actually put some blocks on it, because it will fail beautifully. And we'll show you what a failure looks like in a minute. But we want to prove that this works. It can get comical to have to put things together and modify them as they get bigger. It's not hard to remove 9 blocks when you have a mistake, but when you have a mistake on a 49 block, it's funny. You ready? It works. Isn't that a thing of beauty? So now, let's show you how to do the top. Okay, so if you've seen any other videos that I've done on elevators, you're going to understand that the top is very easy. It's just a little bit bigger. All we're going to do is have 12 sticky pistons that push and pull these. That's it. It's going to be the same design we've used elsewhere. Those 6 and these 6. It doesn't matter if we grab or let go right now because it's not moving or anything. So, do. And then do. 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 feet into those. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Don't be feeling too guilty if you want to skip ahead in the video. I just like to make sure that I'm thorough. I'll show you everything so there's no surprises, so you can build the exact copy if you'd like. I like to make sure that we have at least a 1 block gap here. If I were to lead this here, you would end up with surprises because these slime blocks will grab things. Those kind of things for me are obvious, but they might not be obvious if you're new to working with slime blocks. You need to be able to look and see where you're going to have problems. Now this is getting ridiculously long. And whenever you're doing that in redstone, it's pretty smart to go ahead and put a repeater like this. Because you know 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, you're already hitting a high number of redstone on that side and on that side. And then from here, we're going to lay another one. Now a 3-stage doesn't actually need a long delay on this because of how long it takes to propagate from the time that you say go until the time that it actually receives it, because it has to push up these and then push up these and actually pull it down. So the time it takes to actually start pulling those down is a little bit longer, so we don't actually really have to worry too much about it. So I bet you don't even need a repeater on this one anymore. But I don't like breaking things, so I have a tendency to get it working, and I'll just show you how I do it. So we're going to lead this up into here. I like to lead it this way. Doesn't really matter. And then you want to have a repeater, we don't want to put a repeater down there. That would be ugly. I'm going to put a repeater right here. Like this. I like to do a single one like that. This doesn't matter. However you'd like to do it. So this one is going to fire not too long after these fire. This is going to let go, and it's going to move out of the way as soon as it can. You think it works? I'm confident that it does. So let's go ahead and pick another block. Where do warp planks? This would be your upper level. Your upper floor, if you will. Let's make it pretty. You don't have to do this. There we go. But you can always add a little bit of flair, especially as your piston elevators get bigger. There's a lot more room for doing something neato with them. So all we should have to do is put a button. I'll put the button right here. We will power this redstone. And let's see it work. It works. These let go and then it moves. Alright, so that's the end of all the pieces. Stick around and I will show you what happens when you break this and how to fix it, and how to not be afraid when things go catastrophically wrong. If you're still here, you're probably hoping for a catastrophe. Well, let's try and cause one. So what happens if you have more than 12 blocks on? Well, bad things. So if I put another block right here, that should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So that one shouldn't be able to be pushed. And what is that going to do? It's going to choke the other parts of it. So this could cause cascading problems all across it. So let's actually test this, because this is the kind of issues you're going to run into is miscounting when you're trying to build one. It's very important that you pay attention and you count your slime blocks. So let's go and push the button and die a little on the inside because we're going to have to fix it. Oh no! Isn't that yucky? So, if you're going to fix this, my advice to you is get rid of that top layer. Get rid of it. No top layer. Top layers make it hard for you to think about. So what we need to do is we need to examine our bottom parts and make sure they're all in place. So these, there are no gaps. This is not half primed. These are not floating in between. What we need to do is we need to bring all of these slime blocks back down. So we can do that manually if we'd like. So for example, this one, these two should be right here. These two should be right here. 2, 3, 4. And these should be right here. Whoops. Like that. We could cut these 4 off and they need to go here. These 2 off need to go down. So 2, and then that one needs to be underneath. Like so. Part of this is just paying attention, and it also helps to know what it is you're building and why you built it. I'm trying not to have an unfair advantage. See, these ones move 2 up. Remember, these are the 5s, so they go 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's 7. See, if you were just able to do it from memory, you'll know that. And there's another way you can do it, which I will show you right here, which is that you can actually use redstone to solve your redstone problems. Use the redstone to fix the redstone. Look at that. It came down 1. Now, we can do it again. Look at that. I just pulled it down with redstone. I made my life so much easier. I could attempt to do it with some of the other ones, but let's be honest, it's the cube. The cube is the cube. We would give the holy cube the respect it deserves. All right, so are we in a better place now? Think about it for a second. Did we fix this? No, we didn't. It's going to do it again. There. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That kind of attention to detail will save you a lot of heartache when it comes to the land of redstone. Now the ultimate test is whether it works with these filled in. Let's do a different block. You want to use deep slate coal ore? There's no crime against it. Why would you use that? Probably as weird as using diamond ore. Why would you use diamond ore? That's actually really nice. I actually kind of like that. Moment of truth. Did we do it and put it back together correctly? We did not. What happened? This one got left behind. Did we miscount on it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So something happened that caused this one. And you see that right there? It's not connected. We did not connect this properly. So now you've got another problem, another heartache, and you've got to do it all over again. These are some of the hiccups you're going to run into. I'm going to fix it in front of you to show you that you can do this. I believe in you. This is something that you can do. This was supposed to come over a block, like this, and come up one. Pay attention when it first fires, because you will notice issues like that. You will see the problem before the problem occurs, or as the problem occurs, I guess is probably what I'm trying to say. And that will allow you to know whichever one got left behind before everything became a mess. That's a general good tip for debugging slime piston, redstone, mechanical things. So know what it looked like in the first few movements. That will tell you everything you need to know. And we're about to get a lot less fancy. My advice to you is don't try and design something really pretty or ornate until you get it right. Alternatively, what you can do is, let's say these ones lifted up, you can copy them and paste them higher up while you maintain it to keep track of your pattern so that you don't have to redo the entire thing. But I think it's smarter to wait on your pattern until you get it working. Then you can take these blocks out and put in the blocks of your choice. See, that fixed it. I like extra credit. Today I'm pushing the limit even further with an 8x8 piston elevator. We're also going to add a nice little touch to this one. In addition, we're going to be doing something that iSession suggested in the comments of the 5x5 video. What we're going to do is we're going to add a pair of recall buttons. A pair of recall buttons will allow you to bring the elevator up if you're already up, and bring the elevator down if you're already down. This will help for navigation if you've got other elevators or other ways to get up and down. Let's get started. Let's skip the elevator review. If you're brave enough to do this kind of elevator, even though we're going to make it simple, then I think you are ready for it. So as you will probably know by now, this is a piston elevator. So tier 2 is going to be a pair of wings. We're going to have 4 on either side, and that comes up to the 12 blocks maximum we're able to put, and that lets us get 4 pistons to push as many pistons as we can. So on tier 3, we're going to have 16 pistons total. We're going to have a pair of wings on the front that push 6 of them, and we're going to have a pair of arms on the back that have 5 on each. So let's take a look at some of the slime blocks and make it easy to remember and understand. So slime blocks are going to be symmetrical, and we're just going to have rows of 4 like this. So The way to remember these is that you're going to have all of them go straight up except for the middle ones right here, which are going to come all the way forward. And then you're going to have the side ones, which are this one and this one, go outward and inward. So you can see this green slime right here. On the front, it comes inward to take this row. And on this one, it's green to take this outer row. All the other ones are going to go straight up. You're going to have rainbows on the front outside. You're going to have the ones we just described. The middle ones are going to be coming forward. And then these on either side of the middle ones are just going to have 2 blocks underneath. They're just going to go straight up. And that's how it's going to be on all the back ones. Now, you don't want to accidentally touch here, so make sure you put your extra slime to add it up to 8 right here. But it should be pretty straightforward. You're going to just need to make sure that each of these has 8 blocks. Put a block up in the nook, and there's no surprises, except for the rainbow to make room, to make sure we have somewhere to put these, so that there's not problems. We make this little archway, or rainbow. Other than that, everything's just going to be stick a block on it so that there's 8. If you have to go sideways like this, or the middle ones, then you're going to only want to add one block. Otherwise, you're going to want to add 2 blocks. Okay. And it'll be symmetrical, so you don't really need to remember nearly as much. Let's go through them one last time so you can get a good look at them. Seems straightforward enough? All right. Let's get started. Okay, so to build this, you're going to need 12 observers, 22 each of sticky pistons and slime blocks, and a full stack of each of the honey and slime blocks to put on top as well as your decor. So now that we have our elevator, let's go ahead and put these little wings on. And what these are going to do is they're going to have an observer on each facing forwards, and we're going to have pistons going backwards, and then these are going to go forwards, like so. We're going to have an observer underneath each of the slime blocks. And that's going to do these. And then all you've got to do is the arm blocks. Or you can call them wings. You can call them whatever you want, but we're going to have these tails that go back like this. And we're going to want to put 3 on the tips and then 2 right here. So what we want to do is we want to put an observer underneath each where they're going to go, like so. An observer goes here, and an observer goes here. Make sure you remove these. You don't want to have them left over and have things get stuck. If you have more than 12 blocks, it's not going to move, and this uses exactly 12. So we just barely have enough blocks in order to do it. Make sense? Now let's put on the slime blocks. The slime blocks may seem daunting at first, but they're not too challenging. So what you're going to do is you're going to have all of them go up, straight up to where they're going to go, like so, except for the ones on the sides and the middle ones. So the very middle ones, they are going to come forward a block. Now if you'll remember, we need to have 8 blocks on each one. So because these have to come forward 1, that's 7. So that's 8 and that's 8. And on these, that's 8 and that's 8. That's 8 and that's 8. Now we can finish our rainbows if we like. That's what I call them. Arches or rainbows. But on the side ones here, we're going to want to come inward on the front ones. But remember, these side ones, this one and this one, they're inward and outward. This one's going to come inward. And because we have to come 1 block in, and that's going to be 7 blocks already. That makes 8. That makes 8. So these should all be 8, and we should be done. So next, let's add our ones that go outward. These are going to come out like this. Because that's 7 blocks already, we just need to add an 8th one. just need to add an 8th one. And now you can see it's pretty straightforward to go ahead and just build the other one straight up. So they're going to be like this. You ready? Go up like this. And that's 6, so we need to add some blocks. We can put them right here, 7, 8. 7, 8. And for these two you're going to want to put the blocks underneath so that they don't touch on the slime blocks on this one. Because you don't want these to touch right here. You don't want to put any here. So we're going to put them here, and that will be 8. Now let's finish these copies. So this one's very straightforward. It's just 6, then you go 7, 8. And then this one is just 6, so you go 7, 8. They're very straightforward. So that's all there is to it. If you follow along, you've done the whole top of the slime. So now, let's get to testing it. So in order to test it, again, we need to cover each of these all the way over. So I'm going to come up and do that. That's how we're going to stop it until we build the top. So we'll go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And one more because why not? So now, all you need to test it, there's one adjustment you've got to make. So we're going to prime these like we always do on the bigger ones. And what we need to do is we need to prime these, but the problem is we're going to fire the rainbows twice. So these rainbows are going to come down from where they're supposed to be. So if you're testing it, and this is only going to happen when you test it, once we're done and actually have a bottom button, we're not going to have this problem anymore. But we need to prime these. And now we need to move our rainbow up by 1. Like that. So now we can prime the next layer, which is these on the sides. And there you go. Let's kick it off. If you've been following along, congratulations. You just built an 8x8 elevator, which is a massive accomplishment. But now, obviously, we got to add the decor to it, and we got to add a bottom button to push. So let's start with the bottom. I'll send it back down, and we'll get started. So I've made the bottom trigger very simple for this one. All you need is some redstone dust and a few repeaters and a couple pistons. So what we're going to do, my recommendation is that you place the blocks first underneath these. And then if you run it across like so, you will be done pretty quickly. So what we're going to do is we're going to put redstone dust that triggers these. Does that make sense? You want to come out about 4 blocks or so. Give us room to put the touches on these two. So in order to prime these, or in order to put redstone on these, you're going to have to touch them. But you're going to hit them twice, and so they're going to end up back down. You don't want to prime it to test it once you're getting ready to push the button, because then it'll be in a weird state. You want it to be all the way down when we're about to go. And so my suggestion to make your life a little bit easier is to be ready to destroy these and put them back. That way you can do it like this and not have to worry about having any issues. It's very easy to place them facing down when you have redstone dust to point at. And so, again, we can take these off, and this isn't going to bother that piston. And we will just put them back like that. Now, the next thing we want to do is we want to say hi to these. And so to say hi to them, we're going to have a piston like so. And I have designed this to be a bit simpler this time. Instead of having anything to do with more observers on the bottom, we're simply going to put repeaters like this. And I'm going to set these to 3 ticks. And that's all you've got to do. Now let's rig up a button and launch it. So in order to rig up the button, we're going to want to have 7 ticks. You might remember that's something we can do. And you can place stuff in front of this one because remember there's more than 12 blocks, so it can't move. So you can actually do that. And I'm actually going to put this here, and redstone dust will feed into it that way. So there you go. You don't even need these. Now, if you were to count, you're going to be running out of redstone dust by the time you get up here. So my suggestion is what we're going to feed into it is going to be coming from right here. Let's put a button down and see if it works. It works. All right, let's do the top section now. I cut the video so you can have a supply list. This is all you're going to need, about 16 of everything. So you're going to have some block that you want to push and pull to touch it and make it have too many blocks. And then you're going to want to have sticky pistons to push and pull those blocks. Like so. Having bad luck today. There we go. And there you have it. So now, as quickly as we can, these videos can get a little bit longer because of all the extra work as they get bigger. Try to make it fast for you, for those of you who've actually stuck around. Like so. And the same thing on the other side. And make sure when you're placing these down, they're all set to 1 tick. Shouldn't matter, but if you end up having a narrow time difference, there could be problems. There's different ways to do the one down here. We're going to do a little bit faster this time. So I'm actually going to come down like this, and we're going to go across like so. And around here, you're starting to run out of redstone signal, and so if you want to be careful, you can place it like so. I'm going to give us an extra block just so it's a little bit more symmetrical. All right, fine. I'll make it extra symmetrical. Happy? So now, that's going to cause these to pull back. So if we had a button here, but what we want to do is we want to touch this one to go down. And so what we want to do is we want to put a piston that's going to say hello, and an observer that's going to know that we're supposed to do something. So now we can push, we'll do it like this, and that should work. It should go down now. Does it work? Let's do the top before we test it. This is the scary part, because if you did it wrong, you'll have problems with your top. Let's use crimson blanks for fun. So let's say we wanted to do something like this. I'm just going to keep it very simple. I'm not going to do anything too fancy. Let's say we wanted to do a big X. Well, if we counted our blocks right, and we know what we're doing, we should be happy. And pushing that button should launch it. In practice, you're going to want to have something like this. So does it work? It does. Now you have one fully functioning. So next part we're going to do is we're going to show you how to do an up and down recall button. You ready for that? Let's get started on that final piece. And boom, there's what you need down below to do recall buttons. It's pretty simple. You just need some blocks, a little bit of redstone, some pistons, and then I'm going to show you something that will be helpful with terracotta. But all you need to do, let's say we were up here and we wanted to recall it from up here and say, hey, bring it upstairs. And so what we would do is we'd have a button like so, and then it would fire a piston like so. and the number of ticks it's going to hold doesn't matter because we want it to function just like the button down there. But all you have to... Actually, I forgot. We need some slime blocks. You need a whole bunch of slime blocks. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And then you'll see this will push. And what we are going to do is we're going to have 2 spaces, and this is going to come down and power this. And when that happens, it's going to do it again. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Let's not even go 12. We don't even really need to go 12. We just need to come over to here. So let's come over to here. So we need to come over to here. So we're going to have some redstone. And you want it to not be touching it yet. And it's going to touch this redstone. And there we go. That'll do it. That's a recall button. This is just standard vertical transmission for redstone. Let's see if it works. Look at that. We recalled it. But now, what if we're down here and we need to call it from down here? Well, you just do the opposite. Only this one's more simple than that one. So, I didn't set up where my hop was. Let's say we want to put the button right here. Maybe you're standing in front of your platform. Maybe you're not wanting to go yet. And so, let's say we had a button right here. So you would have a sticky piston, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And you'd already almost be up here. Let's say we wanted to do it to right here. You don't want to get too close to your redstone dust. I mean, you do actually, but what we want to do is we would want this to be powered when this comes up. Do you see a problem with that? There is a problem with it. And the problem is that you're not going to be able to stop it from dragging this block. And so what you want to do is you want to put some terracotta here because terracotta can't be dragged about. So this is going to come up when we push this button, and it's going to cause a recall. Let's not have any weird behavior. That's a loop. You don't want to do that. And so when I push this button, is it going to work? It works. And so if this was where we entered our elevator from, we'd be able to do it from here. Let's actually add another layer of terracotta around it. You can add terracotta around the base of your bottom floor or obsidian. You just need something that the slime blocks can slide past. I think it's a good thing because it encourages creativity on your part. So now, if we had a button here, we can say that, and that'll trigger the top. And we can rig the button that we normally have up like so. So let's say we had a button right here, and this would be our launch button. And it would launch 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, that'll work. And then you'd have your button right here. Knew I was forgetting something. That's all it is to it in the world of buttons. Put that button wherever you want. You can put it right here to click on it. You can put it anywhere you want. Oh no, I wasn't ready. Now I want to call it. Now I can call it. So let's wait for it to get down there. Calling. There it comes. I like customizing. Today we're going to build a 9x9 piston elevator. It's going to have more steps, but it's going to be easier. Having another step lets us make the whole thing more symmetrical, and one of the steps is going to be really tiny. We're also going to debut a new way of triggering an observer. We are going to use a double piston extender. This is going to allow you to build an elevator that doesn't have the bottom elevators right up against the front of it. That'll make it a little bit more flexible in how you can design it. If you've never built one before, don't worry. We're going to use the really easy double piston extender. Let's get started. So dissecting a 9x9 elevator, we'll see we start with a basic piston elevator. We're going to have a little hat on top that's just going to be an observer with a slime block attaching it to a piston. And then we're going to have a crown on tier 3. And this is to make it as beautiful as possible. We're going to have it be like this. We're going to have a 5-block curve like this, holding 3 pistons. And we're going to hit both of these observers at the same time to make sure we push all 3 and don't worry about hitting the middle one twice. And the reason we want to do this is because of this, step 4. These wing designs are some of the most compact ways of pushing lots of pistons, and we need 18 of them to be able to do a 9x9. And so by doing 6, we can just do, they're almost identical except for 1 block so that these can move over a little bit further from the pistons they're on top of. And you can see they're symmetrical. We're going to have 2 observers underneath each of them, so that's 6 total. So we actually, for the whole machine, have 11 observers, which is less than, say, our 8x8, which has 12. So we're actually using less observers this time. And finally, the slime block layer. The slime block layer is pretty easy to understand. On all of the front pistons, you're just going to go up 2 blocks and then a row of 5. That's all you have to do. That'll be 7, and it'll push 5, and that's 12. On the back, you're going to have it not hit right here. So all you have to do is go over until you can go up. And that's it. Then you're going to have to add padding on the ones that reach out 1 so that they are 8 blocks total. And it's going to look like this. That's the padding, just those 3 blocks. It's going to be very easy to put together. All right, I'll give you another flyby. And let's get started on building it. So building a 9x9 is going to be very easy to remember. All you have to do is start as usual with our base piston elevator. We're going to add a little hat of 3 blocks on it like this. And then we're going to add a crown shape of pistons. And then of course, we need to have some observers on this one as well. That's tier 3. Now tier 4 is going to be the following. The 4th tier will contain these. And then we need to put some observers on these. There's going to be 6 pistons on each, and there's going to be 2 observers on each. Sometimes it's easiest to put the observers down first on this. Be sure when you place an extra block like this that you get rid of it. And now 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's a piston elevator for a 9x9. Let's add the slime blocks. You might think that's hard on an elevator that's even bigger than the last ones, but it's actually very easy. All you gotta do is repeatedly put slime and honey on the front pistons, like so. And now you lead these forward, like so. And that costs you 4 blocks to get up to the top, which means that's 8 blocks, which means you don't need to add any padding on it. That's 7. That's 8. That's 8. And you don't have to keep track of this, you just know there's 7 on the ones where the piston sticks out further. So when we go to add our padding, it's going to be as easy as adding these 3 blocks right here, here, and here. You see how that lines up with those pistons. And now you've got a 9 by 9 elevator. It's just getting easier and easier as we get bigger instead of harder. We have another stage, so there's more moving parts to it. It's going to make turning it on and off a little bit trickier. But now we are all ready to test it. So let's go ahead and put a barrier on top. We want to touch all of the sections of slime, so we do it over this overlap. And we are going to prime it like so. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Now the challenge comes in on trying to hit both of these at the same exact time. There's not really an easy way to do it. My suggestion is that you go ahead and get yourself some pistons, as if we're going to build the bottom trigger mechanism. And we are going to put some, like, it's probably not the easiest way to put those down, but we're just going to tap it like so. And so let's do that. We'll grab some redstone dust. We'll grab another block of some sort. Actually, we want to hit them with an observer if we're going to prime it, because it'll hit it a second time. We want it to just hit it once. Forgive me. That's just going to go boop. And actually, let's just do this. We're going to touch this redstone dust down, and that will give us what we want. It'll trigger both one time. This is just temporary to show you how to do it if you really are insistent on doing it before we build the bottom. You ready? Boop! That's all there is to it. You just have to touch them both at the same time. And now we have the third one. And then we should be able to launch it like so. Ready? And it works. You've got a 9 by 9. And we can pull it back down the same way we would pull any other down. So now, let's start building the bottom trigger. We'll build the bottom trigger and then we will do the top clasp. So to build the bottom clasp, we're going to start with the top layer as we always do. And what you're going to want to do is put some underneath these observers. And we're going to run it across and put some under these observers. Straightforward, right? So in order to hit the ones in the middle, we don't want to get too close. So what we're going to do is we're going to put a piston like so. I'm going to feed some redstone into that piston. The smartest way to do that is to actually lead it like so. And you can do the same thing over here, like so. Notice that I'm avoiding, as always, putting something directly in front of the observer because we don't want to accidentally trigger it yet. And so a smart way to put it underneath is to just get them out of the way. The reason why it's a smart way to do it is because you can actually put them right back by looking at the redstone dust. Let's do the same thing on the other side. And then that is going to be it for the first layer. Now the second layer, ironically, is above the first layer. The second layer is right here. We'll put that one above it, like so. We need to wait 3 ticks between each layer. So let's have some redstone dust coming in and we will lead out some redstone dust, like so. Let's say we were to put it right. We'll go ahead and put it right here. So I'm going to put a repeater like this, and the reason why we are doing this will become clear in a second. We need to have this repeater and wait 3 ticks before doing this one, and wait another 3 ticks before doing layer 3. So rather than putting 2 repeaters down there, we can simultaneously wait 3 ticks, and then go down and go up. Now, putting this block here so these don't touch, we're doing layer 2. Now layer 3 is right here. And so we are going to say hello to layer 3, like so, waiting 3 more ticks before we do that. And then finally, we are going to wait 3 more ticks, and we are going to tell it to go. So let's connect this. And that should be all we need in order to run our 9x9. It looks complicated, but remember, it's mostly just redstone dust, and we need to say hello to these 6 facing downward, wait 3 ticks, these 2 facing forward, wait 3 ticks, and then this one. And wait 3 ticks and then launch it. So it's 4 tiers, but it's actually pretty simple. I only need a little bit of items. Let's test it. It works. Now I've put the top on and added something decorative. Let's build the top clasp. So the top clasp is going to be grabbing it like the other ones do, using sticky pistons, and we just happen to have a lot of sticky pistons now. You'll see in my hotbar most of the things you're going to need. You're going to need 18 of these, and then to build the double piston extender, all you're going to need is going to be 5 repeaters, and then 2 observers and 2 sticky pistons. Like that. That will grab it and make sure that there's 13 on each one so it stops. And this will invert them so that they stay by default until we push a button. I'm curious what the fastest way is to place blocks in Minecraft. I feel like backing up is the fastest way to do it. Oh, I'm talking and not thinking about what I'm doing. There. And then we're going to put these down. And there's those 18. And I'm going to lower this down one and run it across. I just happen to like lowering it down one. It makes it easier to reach. And if you're worried about counting because you're building this underground, you want to just go ahead and put one here for good measure. You know that's 9, so that's 11. And as long as it's not 15 to get to the middle here, then you shouldn't have to worry too much. And we can just, towards the middle, put a button on. Now, in order to build that double piston extender, we're going to want to put it right here. Obviously, we don't want to touch this one yet because that'll cause it to move. We like it where it's at. So, ordinarily, we'd want it here, but we don't want to overlap with this. So the closest we can be is 2 blocks away right here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to place 2 observers that are each looking this way. This one's looking this way, and this one's looking this way. And what we're going to do is we're going to put 2 sticky pistons right here. I don't want them to be there yet. We don't want to accidentally fire it. And we want something like this. What we're going to do is we're going to, after a single tick, we're going to fire, and this will push a block up against it. Let's get another color for our block. Let's say it's this color, just so you can see it more easily. And we're going to have 16 ticks. So I'm setting all of these to 4. And that will do it. So if we wanted to fire this, we could do so now. We're going to put sticky pistons like that, and that will fire that forward and then pull it back before it becomes a problem. So now we need to just cause this to happen around the time that this happens. So because there's 4 layers now, it's actually taking longer for it to actually let go of this, or need to let go of this. So by the time this layer moves, this one's come down, then this one's come down, then this one's come down, then this one's come down. It's like taking a while. And so what we want to do is we actually want to extend the time delay on each of these sides. We want to wait a little bit longer. And now what we will do is we will run from here and connect this up. I think it would be smart to put a repeater, let's say right here, just because we're running out of signal right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yes, and so around here I'll add one more. All right, you think that will do it? Let's find out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yep, it wouldn't reach if we wanted it to reach. I don't really want to put this here. I'm going to make an executive decision to not put it there. Instead, we're going to run a repeater like this. So rather than going out and away again, we will go like so. See, this is just another example that you can do it however you choose. Block that off. And see, now it's less ticks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now you've saved yourself an extra repeater. I don't know if you're limited on resources, but sometimes in survival you can be. Let's push the button and see if it goes. So what's going to happen is it's going to start to move. We will watch it closely. It's going to push this and touch that. It's going to move down. We're going to let go of it before it starts moving. You ready? Just in time. It works. And naturally, if you'd like, you can place anything aesthetic you want around the top of it. So it's going to be coming up into this frame. So this is your ground level. Your ground level is going to be right here. And now let's see if it comes to a stop when we go upward. You'll notice that it goes the same speed of all the other elevators. One of the cool things about this elevator design is it's fairly fast for the size. I like the number 100. We're going to build a 10 by 10 today. I think we're approaching the end of the main elevator series. I think I'm going to stop around number 12. It starts getting more complicated after that. After that, I'm going to start showing you some other shapes. We're going to do round ones and rectangular ones. It's going to be a whole bunch of fun. Let's go ahead and get started on this one. I'll show you how to do it. It should be pretty straightforward. One of the cool things is that we've actually made these bigger ones a little bit easier because they've got more room to move around and to place parts. And now we've got a 4th tier because of how many pistons we need. Let's go ahead and get started. So let's dissect a 10 by 10. First, you'll start with the piston elevator. We're going to add a cap on either side that just has a piston that it's pushing. And those being that far apart is going to allow us to add 4 more that are pushed out even further. And we'll be able to, on top of those 4 pistons, we're going to put one of these. Now, if you look closely, these are each of the 6 by 6. There's 6 pistons from the 9 by 9 The difference is what we're going to do is we're going to put them closer together and just take off the one that would touch both. So there'll only be 5 on each of them. And that gives us the 20 we need. And it'll be put together, it'll look like this. And this should be enough to be able to do an entire 10 by 10. The slime blocks are going to be very easy because of that, because they're all going to be in place. So you just have to build one block up, and then you can put up on your slime layer. And when you do that, you'll need one more block, so then it's 7 on each one. All right, let's go ahead and build one. So this is what you're going to need to build it. You're going to need 16 observers, 28 pistons, and 32 slime blocks. We're going to start with our base elevator, as we always do. We're going to put on either side of it a pair of observer pistons, like so. Stop it. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these are going to be our little arms here. And we want to put the ones on the inside further back, like so. And so you're going to want to actually put on your observers first, would be my recommendation. You're going to make sure your observers are facing down. All right, now let's build the final piece. The final piece is going to be these. And we're going to put piston or observers on each of them. Here, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there. And so you're going to act as if you're going to put 6 on each of them. But there's going to be one here that you won't be able to place, and there's going to be one here on this one that you won't be able to place. So this is going to only have 5 on each, and that's going to result in the pistons that we need. There, 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 and there. You just do the 3 on each side, but not where they would touch both. And so now, let's go ahead and test it with some slime blocks. So I'm going to put these here. We want it to be aligned with our front. So it's going to be aligned right there. Now it's as simple as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if you're thinking, you know that we're going to want to have 12 blocks total, so we need to have 7, which means we're going to need to place another block in front of each of these. Make sure you count to 5 there. That's 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we are done, except for the 7th block. 7 on each of them, both on the front and on the back. Done. Let's see if it works. So we're going to grab some buttons to prime it. And we're going to want to cover all of these so that they all stop at the same height. Otherwise, you get weirdness when it comes to a stop, and you might leave some behind. This is just a best practice for when you're testing it. That should be more than 10 blocks. And now, when we prime it with our bottom trigger, what we're going to do is we're going to prime all 8. Yep, 8. There's 8 on the top layer, because we have 20 we've got to push, and so it's getting pretty crazy. And that should be all of them. And then we're going to do the next layer, which has these 4. And you can see that that's pushed the next layer up. And then we're going to prime the 3rd layer. And now we can tell it to go. So congratulations, if you followed along, you've made a 10 by 10. So the next thing we're going to do is put the decor on it and hook it up so that it looks pretty. So this is what you're going to be needing, and the easiest way to do this is going to be to just put a single repeater between the layers and lay a bunch of redstone dust down. Put some pistons on the top layer. That's what I'm going to do anyway. So I'm going to actually hit the top layer like so by having a piston that can look upward or say hello upward like this. We're going to have one everywhere. Sometimes it helps to place another block down like this. And there is our 7, 8. Don't forget to take your blocks off. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So what you can do is you can layer, using pink today, layer redstone dust at the top, like so. And now, if you did so like this, you're going to have all you need for the top layer. And so the next layer is going to be down from here. I recommend going down from the middle just to keep your lengths on your redstone dust short. We're going to come down like this. What we are going to do is we are going to place some redstone dust directly under these. Now you might want to get rid of them so that they don't push things you don't want to push. But if you've got everything built up like this, they shouldn't be able to push anything. So you should be safe, because they would have to push all these blocks, to go ahead and actually put your dust down and it won't have any issues. Normally I would get rid of them and then put them back, but you're safe right here. And we're going to need a 3-tick delay because this is the next tier, and so we've got to wait on those pistons to move into place. So we're going to go 1, 2, 3, like that. All right, and now we got to do the next layer, which is the one just above, and we're going to do that like so. You can build it around like this, but I'm actually going to make one modification to it, which is, remember, we're doing this layer, now is where we need to do our next repeater. So that's the second tier down, and this is the third one. So I'm going to make one modification here, which is that if we put a block down like this, we can actually start it with another 3-tick delay, like so. And so you'll see we only had to use the 3 repeaters, one between each phase. And so if we did it correctly, this should be enough to start it. We'd have to start it from the back, but it would be enough to start it. And we can obviously wire this around to wherever we want. You think it works? It works. So for the top, you're just going to need to attach 20 pistons and 20 repeaters. That's all you really have to do. I'm going to take this off now that we're ready to build it. And we are going to place the pistons. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10. We'll do the same thing on the other side. If you want to test it, it can be beneficial to use a lever to leave these pistons on so they pull those blocks out of the way. But if you do that, be sure that you don't leave those on. Oh, you're also going to need redstone torches. My bad. That many. Because that's how many pistons we have. One of these days I might look into other ways of powering these. It's just much easier to visualize when you do it this way. One of the things you learn from not only redstone, but technology in general, is sometimes simpler in terms of how easy it is to see what you're doing is more important than more efficient and cheaper. Which sometimes you want things cheaper in survival, but I'll tell you that sometimes the headache of having to debug and figure out why something is wrong and what weirdness is going on is not worth it. Sometimes, I mean, for example, do you want to try and save honey blocks and make it slightly more efficient, or just put a little bit more effort and actually have a honey farm? Honestly, the latter would probably save you more time. and having to deal with headaches. I used to like to optimize things, but I learned that sometimes premature optimization is the root of all evil. Bonus points to you if you know who that's a quote from. So now we're done, and we are going to make it actually work. But that is all you really need to do. My advice, because now there's 4 phases, and you don't want these to pull back before it's ready to move down. So when we kick this, it's going to take 4 stages before it's ready to go. And so we want to make sure that it's actually ready to go. On some of the other ones I built, it was barely able to pull these out of the way in time. And if you want to be a little bit safer, you can do it this way. And so let's say we had a repeater here, just so that we can run a cable up to wherever we want our button. Let's say it was over here, for example. This is however you'd want to do it in your survival build. And then we're just going to say hello to it. And that's all there is. Like so. Make sure this reaches far enough. And you can do this with or without an observer. I like to put an observer here. But you can push and pull a block. That's really, if you want to do something crisp and pretty. So for example, I typically have a lighting block, and I will push that lighting block. So when it actually lets go. And this way, you can't tell where it is. So that's a neat little trick that I've been using. I've been leaving it simple just to show you how to basically do it. But if you wanted to switch it up, all you need to do is cause something to happen in front of this observer, and there's a lot of ways to do it. So let's test it. It should let go, and then it should go down. Oh, that's what I'm missing. Generally, you want to have your actual floor that you're going to be using. Just, this is that floor that it's embedded in on the upper floor, and I'm just showing you can use whatever block you want. Testing. It works. And then on the bottom, if you want to use a block around it, you need to use glazed terracotta, because otherwise you're going to run into a problem, which is that these slime blocks need to slide past it. So you don't have to use obsidian, but you do want to use something that the slime blocks are not going to be upset at. Because the last thing you want to do is have it slide up one and then just come to a stop. And you're going to have to ask yourself what happened, and then you're going to have to move a whole bunch of blocks, which is not that big a deal when you're dealing with a small one, but as it gets bigger, it's going to get more of a headache. And so in case I haven't already made it clear, it doesn't matter what you do before you get there. The number of ticks on the button is preferable. You would be careful with that number. I use a stone button because it sits for, I believe it's 15 ticks. You don't want to toggle it too many times. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, that'll reach. And I could have a button right here if I wanted. Alright, I like octopuses, octopi, octopodes, octopeople. Today we're going to make an 11 by 11 easy for you. Mistakes are very time consuming with big ones, so try and pay close attention if you can. Make sure you get your repeater ticks right. If you have trouble, build it in a creative world first. This one is getting more expensive to build simply because it's bigger. Shouldn't be too much of a problem in survival if you have the honey and slime blocks, but you'll want to make sure you have the nether quartz to make these, what do you call them, observers. So let's go ahead, and I will show you how to demonstrate it. Just pay close attention and bear in mind you don't want to put the top on until you know that's basically working, because a little hiccup can really make it a pain to fix. But it's fairly easy if you follow along and you pay close attention. Let's get started. So we'll start with a piston elevator, and then we're going to add a tail on it like so. This tail is going to be 5 blocks, 2 and then 3, and it's going to give us the ability to place a bunch of blocks on those 2 pistons. Let's take a closer look. So right here we have these. You might recognize them from our 6 piston movers. These are just going to move 4 of each. And on top of those, we're going to place a slime block, and it will make almost a little octopus. We're going to have 8 arms on it. And to make it less confusing, you will notice that it's actually only 4 pieces, and then you rotate them and put them down again. So what we're going to have is, on either side, we're going to have 2 of these. This allows us to move 3 at a time in a row without having issues being pressed up against the top. The reason why the pistons are going to have to be all the way up against the top and we can't have a gap is because we're going to need to do 6 blocks now. In order to move 12 blocks, moving 6 blocks on top of this, we don't have any more blocks that we can use. That's why we're running out on this video after 12 by 12, after running out on this video series. So we have these right here on as well. And then on the front and back, and you can mirror these instead of rotating it if you'd like, but you're going to have another one, and this is going to reach out 2 blocks. And the reason is so that you can fit these just barely without them touching. And so it'll be right in front, these 2, and you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that will allow us to hit every single one all the way across, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So because it's 11, we're going to have 5 on this half. And we're going to need to add padding so that each one is 7, so that it adds up to 12, so that we don't have any problems grabbing it and stopping it on the sides. So what we're going to do in order to fit these in is we're going to put them across the front, except for we don't want to have any up against here. So we're going to move these back 1, and then we'll do the same thing on the other side. And then on these, they're actually going to fit into these slots right here and fit right where I'm standing, so that we don't touch anything with a honey block, and that'll allow us to not have any problems because honey and slime don't interact. And you can do that on either side. Now there's not a lot of room on top of these because we don't want to touch these slime blocks, and so in order to fit these 2 padding blocks, they've got to be put right here, just on the end of these. And other than that, that's all there is to it. And you'll be able to build an 11 by 11. I have the parts of what you need down below. Let's start off with our piston elevator, like so. And we are going to add that tail to it, like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. We will put an observer on it, and we will start to build up from there. These are going to be our little 6 piston pushers, but we're only going to have 4 on each. And those are going to go 2 on this and 2 on this. 2 here and 2 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you can already see that octopus shape I was talking about. So this is going to lead out 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We'll do these first because they're easier. We're going to put 1, 2, 3. We're going to put this here. We're going to put this here. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to put 2 blocks out on this one and 1 block out on this one. And what we're going to do is fit them in very tightly like so. 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. And I like to do it this way. You could mirror it, but I like to do it this way with these because they line up really well with the front of it. It becomes easier to do the bottom trigger, in my opinion. As long as you're firing your pistons at the right time, and as long as they cover each of the slime blocks on top, it's actually fairly flexible what you can do. And now you're done. So let's go ahead and put slime blocks on top of it, just to show you what it would look like. And you're going to want 5 blocks so they reach backward like so. And we're going to want to pad it to 7, so that it adds up to 12 blocks. And we'll do the same with the next one. You would do the same on the next one, but it'll touch here. We don't want to touch there. So you put them here. And then right here, we're going to put 2 blocks here where they don't touch anything. You'll do the same thing on the other side, actually, like this. Makes sense? And these are the tricky ones because there's almost nowhere to put them where they don't touch other slime blocks. But you can put them like this. That will work. We'll do the same thing on the other side. We'll do the same thing in the middle, just 'cause. There you go. And now we'll do the same as we did on the far end for this one. We'll just come down to and we are almost ready to test it. The beautiful thing about actually figuring out how to use 6 blocks like this is all you have to do is go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this is your 12 blocks total. You don't have to pad these or anything. All right, are you ready to test it? Let's get out a button. Like so. I like to use a button. There's a number of things you can use. And I'm going to prime the top ones. And this is easier to do when you have redstone dust than it is to do when you have to do it this way. And if you did it right, you should have all of them up. Does that look up to you? Looks up to me. Now on your second layer, it's just going to be these 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then your third tier, the tail, is going to be that one. And now, if we did it right, we should be able to hit a button and make it go. So let's put a stopper up here so we can stop it. And we want to touch each of them. And I like to put extra on just in case I miscounted. There we go. So that'll do it. And if you've been following along, you've created an 11 by 11. Now we're going to put the top on and the bottom on, and I will show you how that works. Okay, so to build the bottom trigger, you're going to need to be very careful. This is arguably the trickiest part of this. And you're going to need to pay very close attention because any mistakes can be very expensive to fix, very time consuming, we'll say. You might even have to rebuild the whole thing if you make big enough mistakes. But if you're watching, I think if you're paying attention, I'm going to not make any mistakes so that you know what to do. And I'll even show you some things to help you. So we're going to put this on here, and the reason we're going to do it is because we don't want these blocks right here. We don't want to have anything here inside the elevator because the elevator is going to need to move up through here. So we're just going to just touch those. And so when we do that, we're going to need to have a single tick delay before we interact with any of the others. Now, I'm not going to worry about the state this leaves those in up there. We're going to fix that later. Just go ahead and put your redstone dust down. And don't worry about the noises it's making. And then we're going to actually get these two like so. And then we will come around and we will get these as well. So there's those. And it's not too bad. Attach here, and we're going to make sure we reach those. What we want to do is we want to put 1 tick down because we're going to count for this delay so that they all fire at the same time. So we're going to put these here like this. Now are you ready for the neat little trick that allows you to be able to fix them? So the neat little trick is to use a button on the piston that breaks off. So I'm going to put a repeater right here. And there we go. Put a repeater right here like this. So now watch this. Before we hit the button and test it, let's make sure it's in a good state. So we have some of these that are up. So these two are up. If I put a piston, or if I put a button on them, the button will break off when the piston fires. And that results in it only firing once and getting rid of the button. I have tile drops off so the button doesn't drop because we're in creative. But normally the button will just fall down. And so we can pull this one down, pull this one down, pull this one down, pull this one down, pull this one down. And then there's this one. Look at that. Isn't that easy? So now we're ready to test it. So what should happen is this doesn't matter, we just wanted to extend it. It's going to trigger these, and after 1 tick, it's going to push those up. And then we're going to wait a tick, and then we're going to do all the others. These. Okay. Up, down. Up, all of them, down, all of them. Good? Good. So next we got to do tier 2. So tier 2 is these 4. And these are actually very easy to do because they are all close together, and you can actually trigger a piston like so by aiming at the block above it, because pistons kind of think they're a block higher than they really are. It's a very unique thing in Minecraft, and it can cause a lot of problems, but sometimes it's very helpful. And this is probably why it hasn't been patched. So there you go. So now that should do those and then these. And so now you should have layer 1, layer 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. And now if we push the button again, it should go up and grab them. And it did. So let's do the third layer. The third layer is this one right here. And you'll notice it's fine to touch because it has too many blocks to push. So what we're going to do is we're going to come down. Let's go down like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. And it will go across like so. Sit down. And so, well, how long do we need to wait for this one? Well, we waited 3 ticks for tier 2. And this isn't going through these repeaters, so we need to wait 3 ticks here as well. And now, for this one, we need to wait another 3 ticks. And so we've got 6 ticks. And then if we follow from this one, we won't have to lay all those down again. And on the final push, we want to wait 3 more ticks. I'll put it right here just for ease of seeing it. And so that's going to wait 3 more ticks and then lift off. You think it works? Let's try it. It works. Now you've got a working 11 by 11 trigger on the bottom. Let's go ahead and add the top portion. So here's what you need to build the top. I went ahead and put a design on the top of it. And what you're going to do is you're just going to run across this. So what I am doing this time is I'm actually going to show you a way to hide it in your elevator shaft if you don't want the hole here to be visible with a piston. So what you can do is you can just touch it when the redstone turns on and off with a piston like so. And by putting an observer like this, this will just touch it and you can hide it and have some lights like this. They will be hidden behind your wall. So let's say, for example, we had a wall like this. We can make it look unassuming like so. And this is how I do it in my video. Oh, intros. And so it'll just poke inside on one of the lights because one of the lights is actually the trigger mechanism. And so this is how you would hide it. This would be your shaft all the way up and down. You just don't want to touch this one till you're ready to go because we're going to go. All right, so let's go ahead and build the top as we would. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab these with some pistons. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We're going to, remember, you can use any block you want for your redstone, however you want to label it. I like to use something different every time, just so that you understand that. All right, and we're going to wrap around this way. Missed a spot. Like that. We're just going to let go and then tell it to go down. And these, if we did it correctly, will stop it when it needs to stop on the way up so that we have a pretty upper level. This will enable you to use any block you want on the top side. You're stuck using obsidian and terracotta on the bottom because you need to hide it, unless you wanted to use some pistons to do something really fancy. But we're going to, let me go ahead and wrap this. So this is just our decor. around the top of the... So this would be your upper floor. This would be hiding your machinery. I could do a bunch more, but I'm not going to. And so you can see these corners are actually the corners of the 11 by 11. So let's go ahead and finish this up. Because by now you should be getting the general idea. And then I will show you the timings on the repeaters to make sure we get it at the right speed. Now remember, the 4-tier bigger machines are going to need a little bit more time. So it actually is cool to make it wait on pulling these back. So we can pull them back like so. We need to be 1 block over so that we don't touch anything. See, we'd be touching the slime blocks. So you always come over 2 blocks. So you can actually wait a considerable amount of time. I'm going to wait 8 ticks on that. 2. We're going to do the same thing over here, actually. This is going to be it. Should do it once we connect this to the bottom one. So we're going to have just a single tick because it's going to be running out of time. See, this is a long stretch of redstone. So let's say I wanted to do it like this. And then would it touch here? Yes, it would, so we can't do it like that. What we'll do is we will come down like this. Like so. And we just do it 1 tick. I'll do it real fast. And uh-oh. Well, don't say anything. See, that would have triggered it. There, that's better. And then there you go. And so you don't have to have those, obviously. You can do whatever you want for your elevator shaft. This is just an example of what it would look like. You use obsidian. I recommend terracotta because it's prettier and far easier to get in large quantities. And so this is going to trigger as soon as we can from this button. And we can lead this up to the top if we like. Do you want to do that? We'll do that. By now you should have a good idea how to move your redstone dust around. But let's say you're new to this. We can put a button anywhere we want up here. It just needs to power this redstone. And then that should do it. So we're going to wait on this because from the time that we fire this, it's going to start moving this and then moving this and then moving this, and then we're going to need to pull these back. So if we pull these back too early, it'll push them back in and we won't be done yet. And so it'll act up. You think it works? Let's test it. It works. I like final bosses. Today is the grand finale. This is the biggest elevator we're going to build for now. 12 by 12 hits the 12 block limit for slime and honey blocks. If you want to see even bigger elevators, you're going to have to like some of the big videos. People seem to want more small elevators. The next elevators we're going to build are smaller and more flexible shapes. We're going to do all kinds of things. Going to do some round ones, going to do some rectangular ones, maybe even some U-shaped ones. We'll see what we do. All of these are going to be added to a playlist, so be sure to check it out. I'll go ahead and put it in the description. Let's get started on a 12 by 12. So let's dissect a 12 by 12. We'll start with a piston elevator. We're going to add a shoulder on the top. It's actually going to be on the back of it, directly on the back. It'll use 8 blocks to put these 2 pistons here. And we're going to do something very similar to what we did with the 11 by 11, almost like a octopus. It's going to look like this. You're going to have a wing on either side that holds 4 pistons. And then the key part of a 12 by 12 is going to be this ring. Let's take a closer look. So you'll see that we have these rows of 3 on either side. They're going to be right up in there, and it's going to be covering these 3. It'll do it on each side. And then we'll do the same thing on the other side. And then, like the 11 by 11, I mean, you go over here and look at it. We had the 2 that we fit in. Well, this time we're going to need to do 3 so that we can have 12. And so it's going to be this simple. We're just going to need to have one of them in 1 block forward. And for ease, my suggestion is that you put the left one forward. We're going to do a trick so that we can reach in and deal with this one right here. This observer right here is going to be over top of the blocks, and that's going to be almost a problem, and we want to use a double piston extender. And so I will show you how to do that on your bottom trigger. But I'll give you one more look at it. It's going to be pretty straightforward. And let's go ahead and get started on building a 12 by 12. Okay, so we'll start with putting down our regular piston elevator, like this, and then we will put on the back of it, like so. And it doesn't matter where you put those two slime blocks, it just matters that you have a pair right here. We're going to put a piston here, and some observers underneath. Make sure they point down like this. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to reach out with these arms like this. 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. And this is going to be where you put your pistons. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And we will put observers on them. Let's put one right here. And one right here. And we'll put observer over here too. And you don't have to break those, just whatever's easiest to put your piston or your observer so it's facing the right way. So next is the top layer, and in order to do that, we are going to put 2 blocks on each of these, like so. On the sides, they're going to be like this. So we're going to have observers underneath here. Make sure you get rid of any blocks you put down that you don't want. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. You can actually do it like this if you like. Oh, just kidding, because you have to put it right here. So you'd want to put them right here like this. And this just goes to show that with practice you can actually find more clever ways to put them down more quickly if you know what you're doing. And these are going to reach, one of them is going to reach forward. So this one's going to reach forward like this, and the other one is not going to reach forward. And so there you go. I'm going to put one here, here and here, and here, here, and here. Piston. We'll do the same thing on the other side. This one will come forward. This one will not come forward, so that they don't touch each other. And then it's as simple as adding these on. And observers are not too expensive in survival. They use a little bit of nether quartz, but other than that, so there you have it. And so we could almost test this if we wanted. Let's go ahead and put on some slime blocks first before we do that. So we're going to come all the way forward, and we're going to put our 6th block back here. And now you can just go back and forth. Wax on, wax off. Slime on, honey on. Slime on, honey on. And then we'll go and do the same thing on the other side. Make sure you have 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Slime on, honey on. Leave comments below if you want to see a different kind of elevator. I haven't decided which elevators I'm going to prioritize next. I've got a number of different things I can show you. There'll be some fun sizes, but I am not sure. Do you like round ones? Do you want to see rectangular ones? L shapes, U shapes? You name it, we're going to do it. All right, so now if we wanted to test this, we will put, and to be smart, if you're ever going to test something, don't shoot it off into the sky. In fact, I'm actually going to show you what happens when you forget. Today, I'm going to show you what you can do, especially if you're in creative mode and you forget. There's not much you can do in survival, but if you forget in creative mode, there is an option. So what we're going to do is I'm going to prime the whole thing. That's right. I hope you like buttons, because we're going to take a minute. We've got 24 of these to do. Is that all of them? Yes, that's all of them. And then we're going to do the next layer. And remember, you can't do this once you put the decor blocks on top, because it'll cause it to get caught. So you want to test it with just the slime blocks until you're ready to actually use it. Then you can put the last blocks on. So now it's ready to go. And now we hit this one, and it'll go upward forever. Now, it would break if I didn't stop all these at the same time, so that's a problem. So what are we going to do? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get ahead of it. We're going to get ahead of it and stop it like so. Let's go up to 150, shall we say. You just want to have a good lead on it so it can't catch up with you. And so if you ever make this mistake, you can do this. And then I'll want to block off on the other side. We need to stop all of the slime blocks and honey blocks at the same exact time to prevent having problems. And so if you ever want to catch yourself, you can always just build upward. Moving on, because that worked. I'm sure you don't want to sit and watch me break blocks. Let's actually start with the hardest one. So the hardest one is we would do this, but we can't because there's a block here. So we would need to actually use a double piston extender. And we're going to do that right here. So to safely use a double piston extender on this, you're actually going to need one sticky piston as well. What we're going to do, we're going to put this sticky piston right here, and then we're going to lay 2 observers on top of it, like so. And that'll be how you do yours. So now let's do the rest of them, and I actually go ahead and use 2 observers for each one, just so that our ticks are the same. It's a clean way of doing your redstone to make sure they all fire at the same time. And so we will do the same thing here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and like that. And so that's going to all fire at the same time. And you can even test it, because I showed you the button trick to fix it when your top ends up offset. And so we will go and do that right now. Doop, 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 doop. And we'll see that these are down. We'll put a button to knock these ones down. And now you can see. And the only difference is that this one's not going to pull this down. That's only going to be a problem if we're not doing anything else afterward. And so because normally we're firing the other ones, this doesn't actually matter. So that's actually totally fine. So now let's go ahead and start building the rest. You don't want to get too close with these. And so we're going to put these right here. And we do not want to feed redstone into this slime block, because we might be powering these pistons over here and causing problems. And so while we're going to run redstone dust across like so, my recommendation to you is go ahead and put a bunch of extra redstone dust right there. That keeps it from pointing into that block. Now once we're done with this, we're going to do the 3rd layer. I'm going to go ahead and wait, but what we're going to do is we're going to come down and we're going to put one that points into a piston right here. And so let's go ahead and feed this around. And this one you don't have a lot of wiggle room on. And what I mean by that is that the number of redstone dust you need to get to the back here is going to be, give or take, 14. And so you're out of redstone dust when you get all the way over to here. So just be aware in mind to count your redstone dust and make sure you didn't go over and that it actually reaches to this last one. So we're going to have dust on these 3, all the way around. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And because we're getting so close to being out, we need to put a repeater right here. Now we actually need to wait 2 ticks. And what I'm going to do is, because I want to feed this down into a piston right here, and here's where we're going to do the third layer. Because I want to do a piston somewhere over here, like so, we are going to need to connect it. We can't put a repeater here or we wouldn't be able to pull redstone from this block. And so because of that, because this one needs to be 3 more ticks, what we're actually going to do is we're only going to put 1 of these ticks here. And so we need to wait 2 ticks for everything. So that's 1 tick, 2 tick, and then we're actually going to add a 4th tick on this one. And so that's 1 and 1 makes 2 for all of these, plus 3 here, and then we add another one because this tick was back here. So this one didn't apply to it because this one was forward. And so we're actually going to do 4 on that one. Hopefully that makes sense. It's not too difficult to understand. And we're going to do, and what I do is I actually have my pistons like this. I'll do my repeater like this, 3 more ticks, and we're actually going to lower this by 1 block so that it can pull from that block. It won't affect any of your other components. It'll just allow it to reach that piston. We're going to do the same thing on the other side over here. And so we'll have a block right here that's got 3 ticks on it. And we can leave some redstone dust like that, and that'll be it. All right. So now, let's clean up the ones that are not down. All right. We're going to do this one, this one, this one. One more. And now they're all down. Now we should be ready to wire it up and do the 4th layer. Technically, that's the 2nd layer. So this is going to be, next we're going to do these 2, and then we'll kick it off. So now, let's lead from somewhere over here. And just to be sane, I like to lead in from this one. We're going to write 3 ticks. And that's not enough time because that's how long we wait for these. So we're going to have to wait another 3 ticks when we get down here. So now we're on to the 3rd layer. And so we will put some redstone dust right here. And then be careful not to get too close to this. If you run redstone dust straight along this line, it will mess up your bottom and you'll have problems. And so what do we need? Between this and firing it, we need to wait another 3 ticks. I missed. There we go. And that should do it. Let's do a sanity check and look around. We see we're going to wait 3 ticks on this one, plus 1. We're going to wait 2 ticks before we do everything. We did not do 2 ticks right here. I also missed this entirely. So let's go ahead and put a piston facing this way. I want to put it facing like this. I'm stubborn. There we go. And we will put 3 ticks on this one. And we're going to actually only do 1 tick afterward. And so we will wait 4 ticks. So that this has 2 and this has 3 plus 2, which is 4 plus 1 in this case. And so now we should be good to go. We've got all 4 of our, these are set to 3 ticks like we normally would do. These are actually set to 4 because of the reasons we just explained, but they should fire at the same time. We've got these. We've got our double piston extender. We don't need a block right here. It can actually power this because pistons are a block higher than they think they are. And then we should be able to fire it. So let's go ahead and give it a try, see if it works. As you can see, I moved it down. Ready? The reason that didn't work is because we missed one right here, so we need to put it here. But before we do that, because it actually functioned, you can actually just hit the button again, And generally it'll be alternate between two different states. And so now it's actually prepared to run again. And so now if we put this down, now it should work. There you go. Isn't that neat? We did a 12 by 12. So now let's do the top. Now be sure to do something cool with the top of yours when you're done, especially with the bigger elevators, because there's so much you can do. So I'm going to put these on the sides. These are going to be what we grab it with. And that will cause it to be over 12 blocks so that it doesn't go upward anymore. We will pull them away with our 12 pistons. Which will grab them with our 12 torches, which receive a signal, you guessed it, from our 12 repeaters. Which receive a signal from our 12 redstone dust. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. So these can be whatever block looks good with your elevator shaft, because it'll kind of blend in a little bit if you want it to. Could be any solid block that will be pulled by slime. So no terracotta, no obsidian, but anything else. And then we will put our 12 torches down. And then we will put down our repeaters. And then we'll connect it all together. So remember, you don't want to do this. Why not? Because slime blocks are going to find that as they come up and down. You need to have, that's where your blocks that enclose your elevator shaft are going to go anyway. Terracotta or whatever block you want to use. Glazed terracotta. And so that's 13 and 14, so we're running out already. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we want to do a little bit extra delay on these because these 4-stage ones, these elevators of this size, it takes a while for them to actually move the top layer. So we want to wait a little bit before we pull these back. And so I'm going to do this one just like I showed you in the last video. I'm not going to make it fancy, but we can have a hidden block that is being pushed by a piston, and that will give us the ability to say hello to it. This is the discrete way of doing it, where if you want it hidden, like we did on ours, so see, I'll do it like this, where we're pushing a light source. I did a glowstone block in the last video. We're just going to use sandstone on this. It can be any block you want. And we want to, because we're running out of a signal right here, we want to go ahead and put another repeater down right here. So I would put it somewhere like this. And then we will come down. And that's it. You think it works? Let's go ahead and wire up a button. Remember, because this is a long ways, it's smarter to put a repeater in the middle and then feed from there. It's just easier. If you're good with redstone, do what you want. But if you're learning, it's better to be careful. So we will have a button like this time. And where's our top floor go? Our top floor goes around it. And so let's pick out a block that looks good with it. What if we are wealthy enough to have lapis around as our floor? I'm a big fan of lapis blocks. So we would have, this would be our floor around our elevator. You could also use blue concrete if you wanted the color. So what's going to happen is we're going to push this button, and then it's going to, after 9, 10 ticks, it's going to pull these back. But before that, at 1, and then this counts as 2 ticks, we're going to start moving down. And so it's going to move down, and then by the time we're getting ready to move this layer, then these will pull back, and it should move down. Ready? It works. All right. This might have been a long video because that's a lot of stuff to do. Oh, look, we messed it up. Let's go take a quick look. What did we do wrong? We came too close to it. This is where you got to be careful. And so if we wanted to fix it, it would be as simple as not doing that. And this is just to show you that mistakes happen and that paying attention is what will prevent disasters. And so now it's good to go. If you made it to this part of the video, I'm going to let you in on some secrets. This one's based off of Ganon's castle in Ocarina of Time. If you subscribe to my Patreon, I'll make you some custom elevators just for you, like this diamond elevator, or these actual diamond elevators. I've made a whole bunch of different rectangles, and I've even got a donut. I'm thinking of doing an Among Us one soon, but don't tell anybody. Mining more video coming soon. Thanks to my patron, Austin J, and my free patrons, and I will see you in the next one.